ahead. You can actually pause. Anyway, good morning again. It's Wednesday, December 19th, Parshas Vayigash. And as I was saying, that there's always anything you want, any problem you have in life, anything you want, you can find an answer in the Torah. It's amazing. Every word in the Torah is there for a reason. And sometimes when we read something and you don't exactly know what message the Torah is trying to teach you, and later on you hear something and it fits in perfectly. So I'm going to talk about something today which on the surface you're going to say it has nothing to do with this week's Parsha, but we'll see how we'll tie it in. And okay, so let's see where it is. I know it was here last year in the Torah.
It changes.
It changes, you think? It's the story about Yehuda and his daughter-in-law Tamar. And I wish I better find it. Anyway, we all know the story. Let me just, while I'm looking for it, Benny gets a mazel tov. You had a grandson, right?
Yes.
Okay. What did you name the grandson?
Chaim Eliyahu, and then I called it myself Yaakov because my father Yaakov.
Okay. So
Chaim Eliyahu Yaakov.
So he's calling it, that's what the mole gave, the person who gave the name gave all those three names?
No, gave two. I gave the third one. I'm grandfather. I was right to some right too.
So you gave it.
In front of people.
Okay. So we have so usually at these when somebody has a baby, there's disagreements what to name the baby. The father's side wants one name, the mother's side wants another name.
That's what happened to me.
Okay, so without knowing that, so how do you know what the right way to do it is?
Open the parasha of the week.
It's in this week's parsha? So most people say, let's give a name from the parsha that was in the week. Okay?
If they can't agree.
If they can't agree.
By the way, my son also, my grandson was also was Parashat Yaakov, Yosef, all these things.
Okay, but in general, there's always a question: whose right is it? You have a baby, first baby. Who does the name go to? Does the name go to the mother? The mother says, "I want a name after somebody in my family," and the father says, "I want to name something in his family."
Oh.
Morning. I stalled long enough for you to come in because otherwise you'd be lost. Okay. So we're talking about Benny had a grandson, and we're talking about who gets the right to name the child. For example, Eitan Shmuel, you gave the name or your wife gave the name. Whose name is it after?
Eitan, it's...
Or you just randomly picked the name?
No. E for Beth's grandmother and S for my...
Okay, so they split it up and they named it each side. Now, we're going to talk today about whose right is it to give the name and what's the proper way, who to name after. And it's very interesting. But first of all, we take a look at the Torah. Yehuda, the fourth son of Yaakov, and he is the star player in this week's parsha. Vayigash el of Yehuda. Yehuda went over to Paro. He thought it was Paro, was really his brother, and spoke to him very sternly. And that was cute. That was cute. Anyway, so Yehuda, it says over here like this. Let's follow the text of the Torah. It says that Yehuda married a woman, and her name was Shiur, and she became pregnant. Vayikra Eshemo Er, and he named him Er. Now, then she became pregnant again, and what does it say? Vatikra Shema Onan. She named him Onan. So follow. He named the first one. She named the second one. Now, look what happened to those two children.
Right.
They died. They died. But then she became pregnant again. Vatar od, vatelad bain. She became pregnant a third time. And they named that child
Shiur?
Onan.
Who named it?
I'm sorry, named the Sheila. Sorry,
So
Sheila.
does it say he or she?
Oh, so what do you think it says? He or she?
They.
No, it's either he or she.
Read the pasuk. So we
I
take
guess it would be she. because
She.
he- Right.
No, why would it be she?
Because the first one died, the first that died.
The first one died. He named the first one,
Right.
died. She named the second one, died.
Right.
Now they had a third one.
Right, but it was the wrong order maybe the first time. Maybe it should have been, she should have named the first and he should have named the second.
Yeah, that's something that you're just thinking of, you know.
By the way, I'm sorry, I don't want to change the subject, but children of Yaakov, the wife, they choose the name.
Excuse me?
For the
Well,
12 Shevatim, only the wife choose the name.
Well, not necessarily. Maybe we'll talk about that.
Leah-
Anyway,
Leah choose all
we'll
the
talk about it later, okay? We're really
Sure.
never going to get through what I want to say anyway. So the Torah says that she named the third one. So he named the first, she named the second, she named the third. So you would think that that's the way it goes. First the husband, second the wife, third the wife again. The Torah adds something, which I'm surprised that people who read this, and I've read this 1,000 times, why is the Torah telling us this? The Torah says she had the third son, they had the third baby, son, and she named him Sheila, and then the pasuk finishes, you know what the word pasuk, you know what pasuk means, right? The pasuk ends, V'hoyu b'chziv b'lidaisa. And he, Yehuda, was in a way, out of town, the name of the town was called Ksiv, he was in Ksiv when she gave birth to him.
So he would have put the name.
So why is the Torah adding this? The Torah is letting you know
It would
that
have been his turn.
ordinarily it's his turn, but he was out of town. Otherwise, why is the Torah telling you where he was? Why would it matter where he was? I mean, you know he was there at conception, but why would he be there? Why does the Torah have to let us know where she was? She was in the hospital, and he was, she was in Atlantic City Medical Center, and he was in Washington D.C. at the time. What do we care?
But he must have been gone for 8 days because you have to name it on the 8th. So she probably named it and then he was still gone.
Look, in those days, to get from Washington, D.C. to Atlantic City, on a camel, getting 11 miles per gallon of water. Anyway, so now, there's a medrash. Okay, so we see how in the Torah you can find everything. So let's look at this week's parsha.
So the first time it's the father's turn, second time the mother's turn, you keep going on.
You go in that order. You alternate.
So it's always the father's turn.
It's father's first. Now, these days, women like to say, we get the first right. We went through 9 months of labor, and we deserve to get the first one. Maybe they deserve it, but it's not what the Torah says. And as with anything else, you could find probably sources for the other way, and as long as the baby's healthy, that's good. There's a medrash that says, I'm glad Dr. Berman is here because we're going to talk about Dr. Berman today.
Hello, Dr. Berman.
Okay?
Good morning. Good morning, Dr. Berman.
Okay. There's a medrash that say, now, what were the name of the patriarchs? Anybody know?
Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov.
Mr. Yaakov. Well, Yaakov had another name, right?
Israel.
Yisrael. Israel. So there's a medrash that says that all three of the patriarchs were called Yisrael. And how do we know that? Because we learn it out from this week's parsha. This week's parsha it says, "Ve'ela shemos b'nei Yisrael haboy Mitzrayim." These are the names of the children of Yisrael, who came to Mitzrayim. It's talking about after Yosef revealed himself and he sent back his brothers, get Pop over here, and he came over with 70 people, and now it lists the 70 people Actually, only 69. You know who the 70th one was. The 70th one was Yocheved, the mother of Moshe Rabbeinu. But anyway, the Torah says, these are the names of the children of Yisrael who came to Mitzrayim, and it starts listing it, Yaakov, Uvonov, Yaakov, and Uvonov and his children, and so on and so forth. So what do you mean Yaakov? If Yisrael means Yaakov, so he can't be one of the children of Israel. So from here the Medrash says, and it brings another proof for Avram also, that Yisrael here means Yitzchak. That these are the names of the children of Yisrael, meaning the children of Yitzchak. Right. And it last listing it, Yaakov, Uvonov, Yaakov and his children. So here's positive proof that Yisrael doesn't only refer to Yaakov, but it refers to his father as well.
So but said Yaakov.
But it says these. If I tell you, here are the children. These are my children. Let me list you the names of all my children who came to Atlantic City today. Mendy. I'm not going to list my own name.
Right.
The Torah. If the Torah says these are the children of Yisrael,
Right.
and it starts listing one of them as Yaakov,
Right.
it means he is the child of Yisrael. He's not Yisrael
So
itself.
how do you tie Avram into that?
You don't. Not from this. There's another proof
Oh, okay.
that Avram is also. But anyway, this measure says that all three of the patriarchs were called Yisrael. Now we have an obvious problem with this. If Yitzchak's name is actually Yisrael also, so when Yaakov was born, how could Yaakov has taken the name of Yisrael? His father was still alive.
Sephardic tradition.
No, it's not a Sephardic tradition. I know you think that, but it's not. And Benny will back me up in this in a minute, even though he doesn't realize it yet.
I will one day.
Okay. So how do you justify Yaakov being the son of Yisrael and then changing his name? Yaakov himself changing his name to Yisrael while his own father Yitzchak, which is also known as Yisrael, is still alive. So based on this, actually, there are some people who say that there's no problem that you can name a child after a living person.
We did it too. My son.
I'll get to it. I'll get to it. I'm very much aware of it.
But also, he didn't name him Israel. Hashem gave him that name.
Yeah, but why would so if Hashem can do something like that, then certainly if we have to emulate Hashem. If Hashem says it's okay to name a child even the same name as the father, then what better proof do we have that we can do it? Hashem did it. I mean, Hashem doesn't do anything which is not appropriate. So there is somebody who is called Rabbi Yehuda Achosid. Rabbi Yehuda Achosid wrote a very fascinating. He was about approximately, I would say, in the 10th, probably about the 12th century. He wrote a book on all kinds of things, and then he lists a whole bunch of rules about life. And maybe I'll bring it in one day. A whole bunch of rules about life, like that you don't think of, like rules. How to, like, for example, he brings down a rule that two brothers should not live in the same city. He brings all kinds of rules especially when it comes to births and deaths and so on and so forth. Now he says that we all know this thing about ayin hara. He has a whole bunch of things that he lists, and then he lists one thing that. This whole business of ayin hara and other superstitions, in the Jewish religion we have things that we say we don't do this, we're scared of this. We all know what ayin hara is, right? The evil eye. So he says the evil eye will not affect anyone except those that believe in it. So if you don't believe in the evil eye, it won't affect you.
Right.
And the same with any other superstition. If you don't believe in it, it ain't gonna bother you. And in fact, he says, and then he says in the next part, the next item that he brings in, he says the methods of the non-Jews that they name their children after themselves. You know, you got Cal Ripken and you got Cal Ripken Jr. You know, Robert Kennedy Jr., Robert Kennedy III. You know, he says that way of doing things, there's nothing wrong with it. He says it's fine. So
For the non-Jews.
He says no. He's saying that that business, like the non-Jews doing, in other words, he is condoning this business of naming people after they're living.
Well, there are Jews that do that. Bronfman, the guy the big distiller in Canada.
Yeah.
His son is a junior or whatever.
Okay. So once again, what he's trying to say is that only those people, good morning, Alan, only those people that are concerned with these type of things, it affects. If it don't affect you, if you're not concerned with it, it won't affect you, which is a very interesting thing. Now, we actually see all over the place that people have named children after living people. And for example, in the last book of the Tanakh, which is called Divrei Hayomim, in one of the first Rashi says that Kalev is one of the people that one of the spies that actually went into Israel. He had a son Chur, and Chur had a son, and he named him Kalev. And Rashi says over there that and Chur's father, the original Kalev, was still alive. Rashi says that over there on the spot. So we see all the ways in the beginning, and during the Tanakh, that was still done. We also know there's a famous Kohen Gadol. His name was Shimon HaTzadik. He had a son. He named him Shimon. So we see it over there also. We see it also. Now in the Daf Yomi, we're learning Masechta Shabbos. There's a story about a woman who had a baby and did a circumcision. The baby died, and then had another baby, and that baby died. And then they went over to this great rabbi. His name was Reb Nosson Hababli, Nosson from Babylonia, and went to him, and he says, you know what? They had a third baby. They didn't know what to do, because the rule is that if you have two sons that died from circumcision, you're not supposed to circumcise the third one. Right. Yeah. In fact, I'll get into it. We don't have enough time, so I'll tell you something about that. So they went over to this Reb Nosson Hababli, and they said, what should we do? So he looked at the baby. He says, you know what? Don't do the circumcision yet. Let's wait a few days. There seems to be something wrong with his blood. His blood hasn't developed completely, and he was able to see this. And they waited a few days, and they did the circumcision, and the baby was fine. And this is Reb Nosson Hababli. He's saying this story in the Gemara, and he's saying the baby was fine, and they named the baby after me, Nosson Hababli. So we see it even in the Gemara that they named after a living person. So based on that, the Sephardim today, they name, in fact it's an honor, they name a baby after a grandfather, in which case Benny named his grandson after...
And my son also.
His son after his father, even while his father was still alive. So they're very proud to do that. However, they don't name it after themselves. No. A father will not name his son after himself. So even the Sephardim, and this is what I was trying to say before too, to this. So our question still remains with Yaakov, how was he be able to be called Yisrael? Because Yitzchak was called Yisrael also. That still remains. And hopefully we'll get to it in a minute or so. So the question is, why don't we name a baby after either yourself or those that say not even after a grandfather, if the grandfather is still alive? Why don't we do it? What's the reason for that? Now there's halacha. We should really start, but since nobody's gone over it, there's halacha that a person is not allowed to call his father by his first name. So if my father's name was David, I can't call my father David. Not only that, the halacha even says that if I have a friend and his name is David, and he's visiting me, and my father is there, I can't call him, hey David, come here, because it's disrespectful. Because first of all, my father himself may think that I called him by that name, and certainly other people who hear me yelling out the name David, they'll think I called my father David. So the rule is that you can't call your friends by his first name if your father's around and he has the same name. Now, what's the reason for that? And that is because it's one of the biblical commandments. Honor the father. You have to show reverence, and it's not showing reverence for your father if you're calling him by that name.
What are you supposed to call your friend if he's in the same room?
Excuse me?
What are you supposed to call your friend if he's in the same room?
The usual. Off camera, I'll tell you what to call him. Anyway, so based on this reason, that's why you don't name your child. You can't name your child the same name, because then his brothers will refer to him, and you're in the room always. That's why you can't name him the same name. And that's why some people say that's why you can't even do the grandfather, because the grandfather may be in the same room. Some people say, well, that doesn't happen that often, and we don't have to worry about it, about those rare occasions. Anybody can go daven. Don't let me hold anything up. Now, but if the reason is, there's also another reason why you don't give. There's also another reason why you don't give a name of the child the same name as you, because of ayin hara. Because it's like the evil eye. Like here's one Mendel, and there's another Mendel, and there's another Mendel. So if you use that reason, then it only affects those people that are affected by it. So if you don't care about that, and it doesn't bother you, the evil eye, then according to that reasoning, then you can name a person afterwards. So now it's a question whether it's because of the reverence or because of the evil eye. I'm going to stop here because I don't want to get... Okay, have a good day, everybody.